You're now listening to the You Run podcast.
True crime. This podcast is unique. Heather, tell them why.
You choose the cases, you share your opinion, and I hit you with mine.
He got an easier death than he deserved.
Casey was the first Illinois prisoner executed against his will.
An eyewitness later described Bundy's last moments of life.
He made reference to his loved ones and to his family when he was saying his last words.
A serial killer comes about by circumstances and
This is the You Run podcast. This is the only true crime podcast where we put you in control. You become part of our team as me and Heather take you through the cases that you have chosen. This is not our show. This is your true crime.
That bitch is cray-cray. She's real crazy.
Hello, welcome to the You Run podcast. My name is Scott, and today I am your host for this solo episode. So, as you all know, if you listen month in, month out, I took a vacation or holiday, and I took a couple of weeks off. Because of that, it made it very difficult for me and Heather to record together. So Heather recorded first, and she brought you her solo episode. Her solo episode was outstanding. She covered a case on Lacey Peterson, which honestly, that case broke my soul listening back. Obviously, I'd done the editing for that episode, and I had no idea what case she was doing. She didn't pre-warn me, and I was borderline in tears when I edited that episode. Heather is exceptional in her knowledge on true crime and exceptional how she delivers it because she loves it. She absolutely loves true crime, as she told you herself when she gave you her backstory into why she liked true crime and what got her into it in the first place. And my episode's going to be very similar. So I'm going to do a very similar format to Heather. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about why I hate true crime. I dislike it. I really, really, really cannot stress enough how much I dislike true crime. And I don't know a lot about it. And I'm going to explain how I've gone from that to now being the co-host of a true crime podcast. I'll explain all of that to you. But before I do that, I want to tell you a couple of ways that you can help us grow. We're doing exceptionally well, and I'm not afraid to hide that we're doing exceptionally well. We've been number one on Samsung Podcast now for 2 whole months. So everyone who listens over on Samsung and you keep listening month in, month out, episode after episode, thank you so much. We're also doing well on all the other platforms as well, but Samsung is just the one that we're flying on. So the ways you can help the show, they're really simple. The first one is tell a friend. If you listen to this show and you enjoy it, and you know someone else who likes true crime, it's your mum, your nan, your dad, your auntie, your uncle, whoever, say, I listen to the You Run podcast, True Crime, give them a go. I think you'll like them. And that is the biggest thing you can do to help us grow, to help us get more listeners. That's the one thing that helps. The other thing that helps massively is reviews. So there's only 2 platforms you can review us on. You can review us on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify now, there's a 5-star or a star button. Click on that and click on 5 stars. And that's all you need to do. And what that does is it pushes us up the Spotify search list and we get more listeners because more people see the show. We're not sat down the bottom when they're scrolling through. And the other place you can do it is on Apple Podcasts. Now, Apple Podcasts go one step further and they let you type a review. So click 5 stars and write something really, really nice about me and Heather or about the show or about anything you want that we do that you think is good. If you don't like the show, don't leave a review. Well, you can leave a review, but I'd rather you didn't because negative reviews, well, as you imagine, have a negative effect. So if you're going to write a review, please make it a good one. Say what you like, and that's pretty much the best ways to help the show grow. If you want to go one step further, and instead of helping the show grow, if you want to put some money in mine and Heather's pocket so we can buy new mics and do advertising and that kind of stuff, you can go to our website, which is yourunpodcast.com. On there's a little button that says shop. And I've never mentioned this on the show, and I forget to mention it on all the shows I do. But we have got a shop, and on there you can buy T-shirts, hoodies, beach towels, wine tumblers, glasses, stickers, anything you want. There's something on there for everyone. And if you know someone who likes true crime, as a gift, there are some good true crime stuff on there. So you've got some glasses that say True Crime Addict. We've got a wine tumbler, which is True Crime. Let me put my teeth back in. We've got a wine tumbler, which is True Crime Addict. We've also got T-shirts, which is True Crime with a splash of wine, because Heather is our splash of wine when she's not heavily pregnant. That's a way you can help us financially. And if you do that, thank you so much, because I don't expect you to. I know times are tough for all of us, but if you have got, I don't know, a spare £10, £20, whatever you want to go and spend, there's something on there for everyone. This is the only horror. It's not a horror. This is the only. Oh man, losing my mind. I tell you what, solo recording, Heather made it look slick as fuck. I am not slick as fuck, but I'm going to do my best. So we are the only true crime podcast completely run and controlled by you, the listeners. So you choose the cases we review every single month. You choose the cases that we investigate. And how you do that is through our Instagram page, which is You Run True Crime, at You Run True Crime. And we put a poll up once a month where we pick 4 or 8 or 16, depending on what cases we can find. And you vote between those. And it's a knockout competition, and we end up with a case to investigate. You can also have more of a say in this show than any other true crime podcast, and I am 100% confident in saying that. So true crime podcasts tend to be someone reading from a script or someone reading very, very detailed notes, because that is the nature of true crime. And me and Heather do that as well. We both take notes, we both investigate, and we both relay that to you. But we also give a big space for you. So if you want to say anything about the case we're doing that episode, or a case we've done previously, you can. And there's lots of ways you can do that. You can send a message to me. So it's at You Run Podcast on all social medias, apart from Instagram, where we're at You Run True Crime. You can send a message direct to Heather. She's at Wednesday Wine and Horror. She's on Instagram as well. And any of the messages that you send us, we will read them on the air, and we'll give you a shout out for getting in touch with the show. You can email us. It's yourunpodcast@gmail.com. You can request a show. You request a case. You can give thoughts. You could do whatever you want. Whatever you say, I'll give it a read on the air. Now, if you're big and bold and you are quite a confident person, or you like the sound of your own voice, or you just feel there's something that you can't get out by typing it or texting it, then you can call the show. You can get your voice heard on the show you listen to. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. So first way is go to our website, which is yourunpodcast.com. On there, click on True Crime, click on Record us a voicemail, and a little box pops up and it lets you record a voicemail. You could do that on your phone, on your tablet, on your PC, however you want. You can do that, and you could leave us a message. Now, I know some people have found that difficult and they don't like the interface on there, which that's cool. So I've made it even easier. So what you can do is on Instagram, follow us, send us a message, and send us a voice note message. So there's a little speaker button at the bottom where you can record a voicemail. Record us a voicemail, whatever you want to say, and we will play that on the air. So you can give us feedback on our last case, point out that we made an error on a fact. You can give your thoughts on a case. You can give your thoughts on us, review us, anything you want. That is your platform to say what you want about any case, any time, or about the show itself. You can go one step further. Tell us what you're doing. Have you been to a theme park? Are you a true crime aficionado? Is it something you live and breathe? Is it something you don't like, but you listen because I don't like it? Whatever it is, that platform is there to be used. So please, 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 please use it. Now I've given the full spiel on how you can support the show and how you can get involved in the show. how about I do what you're all here for and actually give you a fucking show? So I want to tell you a little bit about me. So I dislike true crime. And I told you from the very first episode that I don't like true crime. I don't do true crime. I don't read it. I don't watch it. I just don't like it. And I think lots of people find it weird that I now have a true crime podcast. So I'm going to explain to you how that happened. So I'm going to start by telling you why I dislike true crime. When I was 14, my mum and dad went out for a night out with a couple of their friends, and I was left with a babysitter. Me and my sister were both left with a babysitter. And on that night out, the four people who went out, my mum, my dad, and his two friends, or their two friends, were attacked, unprovoked attacked with a knife. And my father was sadly killed. Now, that had an impact on me that I cannot even now begin to process how much that changed everything. It changed my outlook on life. It changed how I behaved. It completely changed me. And it did, strangely enough, push me into watching horror movies because they become almost like an outlet for me. It was something that was dark and broody, which is kind of where my headspace was, but something that was also very make-believe and fantastical, like A Nightmare on Elm Street or Hellraiser. It was these made-up worlds that I could escape to. But the real reality of that incident was not just losing my father, because that anyone who's had anyone in their life who's been murdered, you will understand this better than people who haven't. So the initial murder and someone dying and losing a family member is horrific, and it's an instant shock to everything you know. It changes everything, your perception on the world. It changes literally everything. But that's not where it stops. So what happens after that in a murder is there is a police investigation. There are policemen and detectives in your home talking to your family members. There are trips to the police station. There's an investigation. In the case of my dad's case, it was they hadn't caught the guy, and it was like 3 or 4 days before they actually caught the person. So the police were asking us to stay in our home. So there's that element of fear as well. And then they caught him, and you kind of have this, oh, he's been caught. That's great. It's over. But it's not. That, again, is only the beginning. So when someone is murdered, their body is held for investigation purposes. So you can't have a funeral. So you don't get that closure. And that goes on for quite a period of time. Or it did in my case, my dad's case anyway. And then you get to the next bit, which is the trial. And the trial lasts for a while. And that's something else that is an ongoing stress. And the reason I dislike true crime and I hate it, and I'll be honest, I've never said this to anyone. I've definitely never said it on the air. So Heather is completely unaware of what I'm going to be saying on this episode. Not because I'm being secretive, just because I'll be honest, I wasn't sure I was going to tell you until now. But the reason I dislike true crime is because I lived and breathed a true crime nightmare for 18 months of my life. And it's something that I will never, ever, ever be able to get away from, what I went through. I will always remember the police officer's name, the family liaison officer's name. He was an amazing guy, very, very nice, done everything he could. I'll never forget the lead detective's name. I'll never forget the name and the face of the person who killed my father. And this true crime nightmare is what pushed me away from real life murders and real life crime, because it's horrible. There is not a single nice thing that comes from true crime, not ever, not a single thing. And that was the reason I was so against doing a true crime podcast, because I've lived this and I hated it, and I didn't want to relive these feelings. I didn't want to go through it again. So how did we get here? That's how I can hear everyone now going, why the fuck are you doing it? What happened was I started Horror Movie Review, And I started picking up a bit of traction and getting some listeners. And I had a listener out of the blue randomly message me, go, you could do a true crime podcast. I think you do really well with that. You structure your episode really well. And I think it would lend itself well to true crime. And I politely replied, no, thank you. It's not my thing. Over time, over sort of a period of a year, these messages become more frequent and from more people. And it got to the point where I've gone, maybe I could. Do I want to? I don't know. And that's when I reached out and I spoke to Heather. Now, I reached out to Heather because Heather absolutely lives, breathes, and loves true crime. She is a true crime nut. And I spoke to Heather about whether I could do a show and would she be willing to come on as a guest, because I didn't even know how I was going to format it. I had no idea at all. And Heather said yes. And then over the course of a couple of weeks, we come up with a plan and we decided what we were going to do. And we done a poll. And then we recorded and we done Jack the Ripper. And I'm not going to lie, I quite enjoyed the Jack the Ripper case. It was an old case and I love history. So it was something that I got really stuck into. And I was like, actually, this is good. I could do this. I like this. This is brilliant. And then we done the second episode where you all picked the Zodiac Killer. And it was on the Zodiac episode, while investigating that, we had Dan on that episode, who was fantastic. But during the investigation of the Zodiac Killer, and I'm sat there trying to crack ciphers, and I really went out to try and crack that case. That's when I realized that I needed a lighter tone with me all the time. I needed someone who could snap me out of that very obsessive headspace, because that case made me very obsessive. I was very much, I want to fucking solve this. And I approached Heather and said, will you come on and be my full-time co-host? And thankfully, and I genuinely mean this, thankfully, Heather said yes. Because had Heather said no, I would have got to the Myra Hindley case, which I think was our fourth case, and this show would have been done. And that's no lie. That case was horrific, and that would have broken me enough that I did not want to do this anymore. But Heather, being Heather, just brings this ray of joy and insanity to the show that it doesn't lighten everything up, because we still cover all the nasty stuff and all the horrible things these people do, but it makes it palatable for me. And I'm sure it makes it more palatable for you. I've listened to quite a few true crime podcasts now in run-ups to episodes. And what I find is that they all very much read from a script. And me and Heather don't do that. We just kind of go at it and see where we get to. And without Heather, this show would not exist. So I'm incredibly grateful for her being on board and helping me through this show, because I genuinely need it. That's a little bit about me. Now, the reason you are here is to hear about a true crime case. And I struggled. I tell you now, for someone who knows nothing about true crime, has not got a big back catalogue in my head of criminals that I could go to find a case that wasn't huge, because the cases I know is like Bundy, Gacy, Dahmer, all the big famous killers. These are the cases that I know because they're kind of ingrained in pop culture. It's hard not to know about them. There was no way I was tackling one of them on my own. There's no way I could do a Ted Bundy episode without Heather. One, she would absolutely kill me. And two, I just don't think I could do the work that was needed in the time. So I scoured the net and I wanted to find a case that, one, was unsolved, because I tend to find unsolved cases are the cases that really get me interested, because I hate things that don't have an answer. Things without a conclusion are absolutely infuriating to me. I need to know the end. Like any TV show that leaves it on a cliffhanger drives me mad. I need to know what happened. I need to know what happened to these people in these cases. And when it's unsolved, those are the ones that I really dive into and I really go in depth. So I wanted something that was unsolved, and I found that. And I wanted something that was different and a bit quirky, and something that I didn't think would ever win a poll, because I wanted to do something that probably needs to be known about more, a lesser known case. And I stumbled across the disappearance of Tara Calico. Tara in the UK, I think it would be pronounced Tara in the US. And this case touched me in a way that instantly, as soon as I read what happened, it was the case that I had to do. So that's the case that I'm going to talk you through now. So Tara Lee Calico was born in 1969, and she disappeared near her home in September 1988. There's lots of theories as to what happened to her, the main one being that she was kidnapped, but we'll get to that when we get there. She had a really nice upbringing. There was nothing crazy about it. She had a family home, really good life. She used to go cycling with her mum quite a bit, and her mum stopped going cycling after she thought that someone had followed her on her bike, so she didn't go anymore. And what she'd done is, after that, she said to Tara that she thinks she should carry mace with her to make sure she's protected. And Tara, being a 19-year-old girl, was like, no, shut up, mum. I don't need that. I don't need that at all. In fact, she wasn't even 19. She was 16. So, yeah, so 16 years old, she's like, I don't need that, mum. It's silly. I'll be absolutely fine. So she went out for a cycle. And what she said to her mum was, if I'm not back by 12, come and pick me up. Which, when I investigated, I thought that seemed weird until I found out the reasons why. So the reason she wanted a lift is where they cycled, they'd quite often get punchers, tyre punchers. So she was worried she'd get a tyre puncher and she wouldn't be back in time to meet her boyfriend at 12:30 because she was going to go and play tennis with him. So she went off for a cycle, as she quite often did. And she never came home. Her mum done what any mum would do and went out to search for her, went down the usual bike route that she would take. After going down that bike route a couple of times each way, no sign of her, she contacted police. The police conducted a search of the area and they found a Sony Walkman and a cassette tape were discovered along the road, not where she cycled, but up on the road. Her mum believes that she dropped this as almost like a breadcrumb, like Hansel and Gretel. She dropped this for someone to be able to find where she'd gone. It was presumed that it was an abduction, but there were no witnesses to her being taken. Some people locally in the area said that they saw a light pickup truck with a camper, and they saw that near her while she was cycling. But that didn't really lead to anything. The investigation went on for a while, and it just ran dry because there was no clues. There was nothing. There was no bike. All there was this broken Walkman, and it's the 80s. No one's dusting that for fingerprints. They all picked it up. They all would have held it. It would have been passed from the officer that found it to the detective, who would have passed it to someone to put it in a bag. And by the time it got in a bag, it had 30 hands on it. So fingerprinting wasn't really a thing. It was used, but not really. It wasn't until June of the following year, so June 1989, a photograph of an unidentified woman and a boy was found at a convenience store in Florida. So she lived in New Mexico, and this was found in Port St. Joe in Florida. The photograph depicts a girl whose hands are bound behind her back, laying on a bed, with duct tape across her mouth, and a boy laying to her left, whose also hands are bound behind his back, with duct tape across his mouth. Now, the photo was obviously shown to family, and the mum identified it as Tara by saying that there was a matching scar that's visible in the photograph. But not everyone was convinced. So this was sent off to multiple places to be analysed, professionally analysed. So it was sent to Scotland Yard over here in the UK, and they concluded 100% that the person in the photograph was Calico or Tara. The second one went to Los Alamos National Laboratory, and they disagreed. They said that it wasn't Tara. To make things even worse, it was sent to the FBI, and they said it was inconclusive. So they didn't have any clue whether this was Tara or not. The boy in the photograph was identified, and he was identified as Michael Henley. Michael Henley was abducted about 7 miles from a family campsite, which was up in the Zuni Mountains. And this photo appeared in Florida, which is 80-ish miles, 120 kilometers if you're in the States, away from where he may have been abducted. Police concluded that he didn't get abducted because his body was found in 1990, and they believe that he died of exposure. He wandered off and died of exposure in the mountains, which makes this even more confusing. Is the girl in the photograph Tara, or is it a girl from that area, and were they both abducted, and did he get away? It's such a strange thing for this photograph just to appear at this convenience store. Also, the thing that made the photograph weird is in the photograph there is a copy of V.C. Andrews' My Sweet Audrina next to the girl who we believe is Tara. And this is kind of what I think cemented it for the family that it was her, because that was one of her favourite books. After that, in 1989, this case went dead. Absolutely dead. There were no leads, there were no fingerprints, there was nothing to tie anything to anyone. There was no way of finding where Tara had gone. Over 20 years passed before some more photographs emerged. They actually appeared in the Star newspaper in Port St. Joe. They were posted to the paper, and I'm not convinced these are her. I'm not convinced these are Tara, but lots of people believe they are. And if that's the case, then these were taken 20 years later, which would lead me to believe that if she had been abducted, she's been held captive for this amount of time. And I know that sounds crazy, but it does happen. There are cases that has happened. And when investigating this, I found a case of a guy called Joseph Fritzl, who kept his family in the basement his daughter in the basement for 25 years as a slave, which blows my mind, and that's something else. But the photographs that emerged was one with the girl's face taped across the mouth on a blue and white sheet, and that's pretty much all you can see. And the other one, if I'm honest, I think it looks staged. It's a girl with her hands bound and gagged, with a man yanking her hair back and laughing. Police have looked at both of these, and so have the family, and they can't identify the man, and they can't conclusively identify the girl, that it could be Tara, that they can't identify her either. So again, the case went dry. There's lots of rumours. So there was a rumour come out in around about 2008 that she was actually knocked down by a car with a couple of teens in it, and they disposed of her body. There's a sheriff in Valencia County who said that had been told to him, and he knew the names of the people and he had spoken to them, but with no body and no evidence, there's nothing he can do. There's not even enough for him to get any kind of warrant to do anything. So it went nowhere. They created a special task force to investigate this in 2013. 2017, that was disbanded after getting nowhere, no further than any of the investigators before. But this case pushed on. They weren't deterred. So in 2019, the FBI offered a reward of $20,000 for information leading to the precise location of Tara's body or her whereabouts, or leading to the arrest of the conviction for those responsible for her disappearance. So even in 2019, which is 40 years after she disappeared, they're still not letting it go. Maybe they're like me. They need things resolved, which for law enforcement, that's a fucking good thing. I want my law enforcement to want things left. I want them to solve stuff. September 2021. So we're jumping forward to last year. The Valencia County Sheriff's Office and the New Mexico State Police issued a statement to say they had a new lead in the case. and that the focus of a sealed warrant for an unknown residence was issued, there has been no further update since that day. Nothing at all. And when people have spoken to the police, the answer they are getting is no comment, which would lead me to believe that this is still an open investigation and they are still trying to either locate Tara, or they're trying to get enough evidence to prosecute whoever may have taken, abducted, and possibly even murdered this poor girl. This case is the strangest case I've ever looked at. I've never, ever, ever seen an abduction case where a year later a photo emerges. And why? Why would you do that? You'd send a photo if you wanted a ransom. You wouldn't just drop a photo randomly at a shop. I just don't understand why that would happen. It's just so strange. These disappearing cases are difficult for me. And what made this one so difficult is her stepfather and her mum pursued this for so long. They searched, they had family searched. Apparently her stepfather would go out and go down the trail. She went every single day, just in case. And they both passed away not knowing what had happened to their little girl. I can't begin to imagine the torture that they had for all those years. Not knowing is infinitely worse than having a verdict or an outcome of something. The unknown is the scariest element of all of it. It's petrifying. How can you not know what's happened? And I think that's what made this hit home for me, is that not knowing. It's a horrific thing. That is the case. That is pretty much all there is on the case. There is nothing that's really come about since, but we know they are still investigating. And I hope if someone had taken her, and I hope they catch the bastard, because he deserves, or she, let's not be sexist, he or she deserves to be brought to justice for whatever they've done. I'm going to wrap the case there because I don't really have a huge else lot. There's not much to say about this case. It kind of is what it is. It's an abduction case with no clues and no leads. If anyone does have any leads on this, please contact the police department, because it's still an active investigation. Although Tara was actually declared legally dead because she has disappeared for so long. But she might not be. You never know. Let's live in hope. Next time on True Crime. Oh, that rhymed. Oh, mate, that's a thing. That's the thing that's coming to the show. Next time on True Crime. We're going into another unsolved case, and it's a big case. And you all voted for it in the polls. And if you didn't, I'm not going to tell you what it is, because you need to go and vote. But when it comes out, obviously you'll know. It's an unsolved case that is still active, and very, very active case right now. Me and Heather discussed this, and there are some concerns about doing this case. One of the concerns is it's very, very active, and I am going to investigate harder than ever because I want to put this to bed. I want to end it. So on top of what I normally do, which is my investigation online and listening to podcasts and watching documentaries, I'm going to be hitting the ground, and I'm going to be making some phone calls, and I'm going to be trying to contact some police departments, and I'm going to be trying to get more information than ever before, because I want to help try and solve this. That's always the goal with these cases. Before we go, when I decided we were going to do, or when me and Heather decided we were going to do solo episodes, I asked some questions on Instagram of what people might want to see. And one of the things I asked was I asked you to tell me why you love true crime. We haven't got a huge amount of followers over on You Run True Crime, which is where the polls are going now. But I did get some. And I got one from Skellington fan. Skelly, we love you. I know we say it every week, but you get involved all the time on the show. you're great. I can't thank you enough. Skeleton Fan got into true crime because she's always been fascinated with the why and how people can do the things they do. And I'm with you on that. And Heather, Heather gave one as well, because I got to co-host with my pal. Well, thank you very much, Heather, because I got to co-host with you too. The other thing I said was you can ask me any question you want. And Skelly asked a question again. She put, I know you don't like true crime. And now, Skelly, you know why I don't like true crime. But you've asked me, is there any case I'd actually be interested in investigating? And yes, there is. And it is our next case. That is the case that I'm interested in. That is the case that has sparked my interest. And that is the case that I will go all out to solve or give a lead or anything. That is the next episode. That's the case. That's the one that I want. And I've wanted that case since I started looking into true crime. And I'm not a fan, but since I started looking, that's the one. So next episode is the one. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all of your support across all of our social medias, across all of the platforms that the show is on. You're all wonderful. And without you, this show is just me and Heather just chatting, which is fine. I'll be honest, if there was 3 of you, we'd still be putting this out, but there's more of you than that. And I honestly can't thank you enough. I will catch you all next time. It'll be me and Heather back together. I can't wait to record with Heather again. She's incredibly fiery because she's pregnant. And I think the next case is going to fire her up more than she has been before. Heather, I have to say a special thank you to you as well. You make this show so much more palatable for me. And now listening to this episode, you know the reasons why I struggle with true crime, which you didn't before. And I'm sure we'll have conversations about that before we next record. Thank you so much, Heather, for being the great co-host that you are. And thank you again, everyone, for listening. And we will catch you all next time. Thank you for listening to the You Run podcast. Don't forget, you can get involved in the show in so many ways. All you need to do is head over to yourunpodcast.com.
Yeah, you don't want it to sound like you're literally reading from a script.
Shit, sorry, Heather. That's right, this is your show. It's fun. It's different. It's like nothing else out there. This is your true crime.
This motherfucker.